The topic that we decided to discuss for this project was women and globalization.
Globalization. A very short definition of globalization is the expansion and intensification of social relations and consciousness across world time and world space, which basically describes how people interact with one another worldwide. Globalization is an uneven process, meaning that people living in various parts of the world are affected very differently by this gigantic transformation of social structures and cultural zones.
The economic dimension of globalization describes the intensification and stretching of economic connections across the globe. Basically, that describes how businesses and business transactions affect different areas of the world to varying degrees depending on where a person lives.
The political dimension describes the intensification and expansion of political interrelations across the globe. This is describing how different governments interact and affect each other, which again is based off of where a person lives.
The cultural dimension of globalization describes the intensification and expansion of cultural flows across the globe. This is talking about how different cultural aspects specific to certain areas of the world interact and affect other people in different areas of the globe.
Women and economical globalization. One of the biggest problems with women, mainly from underdeveloped countries, is that they are not given the opportunities and responsibilities that they deserve. The biggest question is how to change the environment so that women can be seen by men and women alike for what they can contribute. Discrimination and mistreatment of women worldwide needs to end.
An example of this discrimination is that the Rwandan law prevented women from opening a bank account without their husband's written permission and gave women the status of minors and the mentally impaired. Men in these types of countries typically do not use the money that they get or make for their families, and this makes it hard for the women to take proper care and educate their children. Typically, in such nations, there are at least 3% more males than females, partially because females don't receive the same medical care as males. Also, polygamy means that when the wealthiest men take two or three wives, it leaves even fewer women available for the poor.
Women deserve the same rights as men, no matter where they live. They have been proven to be just as productive, if not more, than men. Giving women more responsibility would allow for women to make their own money, which would send more children to school and provide for overall family income.
Women and the political dimension of globalization. One rationale for seeking more female politicians is that women supposedly excel in empathy and forging consensus and thus make, on average, more peaceful leaders than men. Another benefit to giving more roles in political opportunity is that there is strong evidence that when women had a political voice, their lives also became a higher priority, allocating more funds to public health programs, particularly for child health. Giving women more power in governments propels that country to have more effective education for children, resulting in better educated and run country.
Women and cultural globalization. If we believe firmly in certain values, such as the equality of all human beings, regardless of color or gender, then we could not be afraid to stand up for them. Just because we believe in respecting other faiths or cultures, we need not accept that discrimination is an intractable element of any society. Every single civilization needs to utilize and appreciate every aspect that women bring to the table in social and cultural aspects of their society. Doing so would result in the advance of that society in a globalized world.
Okay, so one solution that we came up with to help out the discrimination against women, to, well, help end the discrimination against women internationally, is education. The biggest way to help women in underprivileged nations is to help fund the education of their children. Education is the key issue for overcoming poverty and for overcoming war. If we are to overcome terrorism and violence, we need education. That is the only way we can win.
Women discrimination was a huge topic that we talked about in class, so we decided to ask ourselves the question, how do you feel about discrimination against women internationally and in the US?
We believe that discrimination against women is a huge issue in here and internationally. In the United States, we've come a long way, and we're definitely not as bad as a lot of the underdeveloped countries internationally, but we still have some issues.
Yeah, one of the main issues being women are really underpaid in the United States in any job field. Typically, women make about 60 to 70 cents per dollar that a male makes for doing the same exact job.
We also found that in the workplace here, it takes a lot more effort for women to gain the respect of women respect women, but the men in that company don't often respect the women right away. They have to try a lot harder to earn that respect than men do, where like a man can just walk in and instantly they think he knows what he's doing just because he's there and he's a guy. Instead of if a woman walks in, they'd kind of question it, I feel like.
Yeah. And I know a huge job field right now is like the STEM jobs, science, technology, and like math field. And a lot of men are seen as like superior in that job alone. And I know Amanda's going in to teach math, and it's crazy to see the difference between how a man is treated, even in going through school, whether it be middle school, high school, or like further on college education or your graduate degree. Everyone there's just a plain difference between like how many professors treat men and women, especially in that field.
Math being a huge part of my major and always in high school and stuff, I was always just good at it. I knew it. I was always just kind of like questioned by all my teachers. I had male teachers mostly for math, and I felt like they'd always call on the boys. They'd never really give a girl an opportunity unless like I really tried to raise my hand and like participate. So it was almost discouraging. Um, that's one of the reasons I wanted to go into math and science education. I had this one teacher that would always give boys an opportunity, but never really gave the girls much of an opportunity. And after he realized that I was interested in math, he actually said, "You're too pretty to do math." And I felt that that was just really sexist because if I'm good at it, why shouldn't I be doing it? It's what I like to do. So
Yeah.
I felt that it was really discouraging from a female standpoint.
If a female's feeling discouraged, some females that aren't as strong as like what Amanda wants to do and pursue go into, some are like taken back by it and are like, well, if I'm going to be discriminated against, I don't want to stand up for it and I don't want to continue on in this major just because of how they see they're treated. And that sucks from America's standpoint, just as like growing as a society, because we're never able to fully utilize like all of our resources. If one of the smartest like women in the world feels uncomfortable going into a certain major, she could potentially solve something or do important research, and just because she's been discriminated against or feels that she shouldn't go into the major because a professor said so, it just it could hurt us and be so detrimental to the United States and their growth.
I feel like it's a huge cultural aspect. It's just kind of always the way it's been. It's a patriarchal society. Men have always been seen as superior, and now that we're changing that, I feel like it's getting better, but it's still there.
Especially in other countries, how we were talking about internationally, the discrimination against women is just a huge like controversy. So there's still so many issues in so many developing countries that we need to change it. I mean, there's nothing else to say except for that it's wrong and we need to help.
We need to educate internationally on what women can actually do and give them more opportunities to prove themselves. In underdeveloped countries where children are needed to work on farms or aren't really expected to go through school, especially as girls, families will just send the boys to school and keep the girls at home because they maybe don't have the money. But if we give women the opportunity to send their children to school internationally and educate them, I feel like the discrimination against women will like decrease drastically.
Yeah, there was a video that I watched for a special event was China Blue. It was about a denim shop in China, and the one young girl went away at 17, or her sister was just beginning high school and she was their second kid. So she had to go away and provide for the family so the one daughter could go through school. And mind you, the parents were already upset having two daughters anyway. So she left her farm at a young age and worked in a denim shop, and it was only women working there, and they earned uh, close to 6 cents an hour, which did not cover any cost. They weren't Women in even China still to this day aren't respected by men or by any superiors because they're seen as only able to do petty work such as sew in a denim shop versus men's jobs who can be the factory owners or pretty much pick of the mill, do whatever they please.
I remember in one of the books we read that a lot of these women in these types of cultures who farm, their husbands also farm, but the men grow the cash crops and they make all the money, while the women grow the staple crops that are just kind of there. They don't really make much money out of them. And it's, if the women decided to grow something that started making money, the men would just come in and take it from them and make the money so that they can go spend it instead of spending that money on their children to educate them to end this type of discrimination.
And it's sad in countries like that where women are selling staple products and making close to nothing in money that the men think they're giving women rights. They think that they're doing good for the women when it's not doing really anything at all. It's not fair to the women, it's not fair to the children. It's just men in other countries, it's just the culture, the way things have always been and the way things they'll continue to be if we don't educate.
And economically, the microloans given to women in countries like this have been proven to really help jumpstart their
Yeah.
businesses. Yeah, and it has given more money back to them to continue to grow their business and really succeed, and just makes their whole economy better.
Yeah, and sometimes it's sad when we see like charity, we think of it's great, awesome, we're giving money to like the less fortunate, but in return it's not really giving the women like yeah, you're giving them a resource, you're giving them money to maybe get them by for a few weeks or get them some food or but you're not ever furthering educating them to sustain like a stable lifestyle. You're maybe giving them a stable lifestyle for a couple of weeks, but without educating them, they're never going to be able to have a sustainable lifestyle for the rest of their lives.
So we need to be teaching women how to build businesses, how to make their own money so that they can sustain that lifestyle without the men, because
Yeah,
they don't need them.
exactly. And in some countries, I know there was we talked about mills being built in other underdeveloped countries. Well, great, we build them a mill for people to work on, but when the mill broke down, no one fixed it. No one knew how to fix it, and I mean, it just collapsed. We're not educating them enough to where they can have and build a sustainable lifestyle.
Put on the same dirty clothes.
So overall, what we concluded is that the biggest way to help end the discrimination against women here in the US and internationally is education. We need to be sending more children to school and giving women money to do so.